Part 2 is going to be our breastfeeding journey. It was not always easy, but it was also not always hard. It was definitely worth it. If you look up anything, if you like research breastfeeding benefits versus anything negative, the benefits far outweigh the cons. It is very healthy for your baby. It is their first form of an immune system for, I think it's like 6 months up to 2 years. It is where they get their antibodies. It is what protects them from sickness. And in our case, I definitely attribute breastfeeding to Jake Jr. being as healthy a baby as he's been. He's been a very, very healthy baby. He's not been sick. We were sick together one time. So yeah, definitely think that breastfeeding played a huge role in how healthy of a baby he is. Yeah, so it helps with the immune system. It helps with the mother-child bond. It's a really good experience also. Like, as far as the bond goes, it's one of the best things I've ever done. It is almost magical. It really is. It's so natural, like it just comes to us naturally, and I don't even know how to explain it. It's such an amazing, beautiful thing, and I'm so glad that we had this experience, and I'm glad that I stuck with it even when it got really hard. It did get difficult. It was difficult at times, and there was times where I was like, oh, no wonder people stopped doing this. But I'm glad that we stuck with it. So the very first 2 days, Jake Jr. and I we seemed like we were a natural. Like, he had no issues with latching. I had no pain. It felt amazing. The closeness that it creates with you and your child. And he did a really good job. He knew how to nurse immediately. Like I said in the last video, you don't have to teach your child how to nurse. You just have to get to a point where you fit together, to where you're in sync with the breastfeeding. I don't know the word I'm looking for, but you just have to get to a point where you fit. And that just comes with practice. I remember the lactation consultant was definitely praising us. You know, she said that Jake Jr. Was so naturally good at it, even though he appeared to have the tongue tie and the lip frenulum, I think that's what the word was. But I was like, hey, he's getting milk and I'm not all cut up or whatever from him nursing, so we're just gonna go with it. We're not gonna even worry about trying to fix any of that, you know. And we never did have to fix anything. Everything worked out. So the first 2 days, I'm sorry I keep looking outside. It's just such a pretty day. It's so pretty. First 2 days were really good, and then day 3, we were at home. My milk came in. I was totally engorged. It hurt. It felt, oh my God, it was so scary. And unfortunately, no one that was there, my mom, my sisters, no one had any advice for me. No one knew what to do about it. It looked scary. They were so engorged, and I was panicking, and the baby was crying because it was so full. He couldn't nurse well, like he couldn't latch well because it was so engorged. So that was scary, but we got through it. I had to pump a little bit to release some of it so that he could get a good latch on, and then it was fine, but it seemed like the biggest deal at the time. At the time, it was so scary and so dramatic, but it was not that big of a deal. But I had a C-section with Jake Jr., so I ended up getting sick after coming home. I was vomiting like every single day, multiple times a day. I was so sick. I don't even want to talk about it. It was horrible, but I did end up going into the hospital for it and being treated in the hospital for like 4 days. Well, because of how I was laying in the hospital bed, I clogged the ducts in my breast and got mastitis. So I experienced mastitis at 2 weeks. So a lot of things were working against me breastfeeding at the time. I was 2 weeks post-op, newborn baby, vomiting, fever of like 103, 104, had mastitis. I was in so much pain. I was on medications, and I was having to pump and send milk to my in-laws who were watching my baby. It was so hard. I mean, I was strong at the time. I was like, this is what we're gonna do. I will get my breast milk to my baby. I will figure it out. But looking back on it, I'm like, I can't believe I was able to do that. Like, instead of just saying, just go get formula, let me just focus on getting better. No. My number one goal, my number one priority was getting my baby breast milk, because I knew that was the best thing and nobody was going to stop me. So that was hard. And then after I got all better from that and I came home, then I started complicating things, because I'm like, okay, I have to nurse on this nursing pillow, the baby has to be laying this way. But that's just because in every video you watch, they're on a nursing pillow, they're laying on their side, the baby is, while the mom's sitting upright, and like that I thought that's how you're supposed to nurse. So for like 2 months I was complicating it, because I had in my mind how it's supposed to work, how it's supposed to look, and I was wrong. Because at 3 months I watched a YouTube video that talked about let go and let nature. And if you're having issues with like cracked nipples or latching, it's probably not so much that there's something wrong with the baby's latching, but you're probably just trying to control it too much. And they were talking about how, like I talked about in my part 1 video, the baby is able to just crawl up you right when it's born, find your breast and nurse. You don't need to do anything. So that is actually the more natural position to nurse in, is belly to belly. So by month 3 I figured that out and was letting him nurse, just kind of sitting, kind of. I think I was laid back or reclined a little bit, and he would kind of sit on me, belly to belly, and he would nurse. And that was so perfect. He seemed to be getting even more milk than he was before. He seemed more comfortable. I was more comfortable. It didn't hurt anymore. I wasn't dreading the nursing sessions, because there in the beginning, it was definitely, I was dreading every time he had to eat. It was miserable. And the only thing that was making me push through the pain was, this is the best thing for my baby. I have to do this. I just have to sacrifice whatever. It's gonna hurt, so be it. But then after I figured that out, I never really had an issue with pain anymore, because I got rid of my nursing pillow. I never used it again, and I just let him nurse that way up until 5 months, and then we nursed a lot laying down. We nursed a lot laying down, and then from 5 months to like 7 months, we only nursed laying down, because that was the most comfortable. That didn't hurt me. And then now we nurse both laying down, or I'll hold him. I'll just like hold him, and his head and my arm are on a pillow. It's not quite that he's lateral, but it's what's comfortable for us now. So, oh, at 4 months, I got mastitis again. And mastitis, if you've ever had mastitis, it is one of the sickest you will ever feel. I mean, the nausea is horrible, and you have a fever. You feel like you have the flu. You don't think that you are going to live. I mean, part of you is like, I'm gonna die. And again, the only thing that got me through it was my baby needs me. And yeah, I was taking care of a newborn baby with mastitis, mostly by myself, and it was hard. My husband was really good whenever he was, I can't remember exactly what he was doing at the time. I think he was working on our house before we sold it, but he was busy. But he did help me out as much as he possibly could. And I know he hated seeing me like that because I'm a pretty tough person when I'm sick. And I was not tough. I was a baby, but I was also taking care of a baby. So I think overall I did really well. My strength, not just in having a baby, but my strength just talking about breastfeeding alone has really surprised me about myself. It has really shown me how strong I am and how much I can persevere and endure and overcome things when it's important to me. So I'm pretty impressed with myself. I would say for us, every growth spurt that every time he goes through a growth spurt, it seems like not so much his latch changes, but the way that he nurses changes, and I've had to adjust accordingly. So, do I get cracked, sore nipples? Yes, I do. Oftentimes it's around the same time as a growth spurt. I'll get cracked, sore nipples. So it will hurt to nurse, especially on my right breast, and I do sometimes have bleeding, but it's just a part of it, and I just take care. It has been the most rewarding and most precious experience with my baby that I could not have even imagined that it would be this amazing, and it has been wonderful. I would definitely recommend every woman breastfeed their baby and just push through the hard times if you can. I do know that breastfeeding is not for everyone, and I do know that not everyone is able to breastfeed. Yes, you do, and if you quit because of the mastitis, I don't blame you a bit at all. I mean, it can be hard, but for me, it has been one of the best accomplishments ever, and now here we are. We've been breastfeeding for 10 months, and I don't know when we're going to stop. I'm going to pretty much leave it up to the baby. Whenever he is ready to just start eating normal food solely, then I will probably stop. One last thing about breastfeeding, what I did not really consider, but that I think is amazing, is breastfeeding is like a mother's remedy to everything. Every time he gets hurt, like really bad hurt, I breastfeed him, and he stops crying like that. Breastfeeding has anti-inflammatory properties that help with teething, fevers, childhood illnesses, pain, comfort. I mean, it is like the solution to everything. It's so awesome. I wish that we as adults could still breastfeed on our mothers. Like, I wish I could call my mom and be like, come over so I can breastfeed. I'm having a bad day. But anyways, Jake Jr. has definitely used nursing as a comfort, and when I know he's hurting, I breastfeed him and it helps him, and I just think that's so cool too. So yep, that's pretty much everything I wanted to say about our breastfeeding journey. And you know, it wasn't always easy, but it was definitely something I will treasure forever. It is a memory that will mean so much to me for the rest of my life, and I'm so glad I did it. And I hope that you enjoyed watching this video, and I will leave the link to part 1 in the comment or in the description below, and to part 3, which I'm going to make another part about breastfeeding, and it'll be shorter.